Two sites, two countries, two civilizations separated by centuries, and both of them built structures that modern engineers still cannot fully explain. I want you to picture something for a moment. You're standing in front of a stone block. It's not just any stone block. It weighs 200 metric tons. That's heavier than 33 adult African elephants standing on the same spot. Now imagine moving that block, not with a crane, not with a forklift, not with any machine at all, but across rugged Andean terrain, uphill, over dozens of miles. And after you've moved it, you fit it so perfectly against the next stone that a knife blade cannot slide between them. No mortar, no cement, no tolerance for error. This is not mythology. This actually happened. And what's even more unsettling than the structures themselves is what we still don't know about how they were built. Today, we're investigating two of the most extraordinary ancient megalithic structures ever constructed by human hands: Sacsayhuaman in Peru and Pumapunku in Bolivia. And the question we're really asking isn't the one you've heard before. It's not, did aliens build this? The real question, the one that keeps engineers and archaeologists up at night, is far more shocking. How badly have we underestimated ancient humans? Stay with me, because what we're about to unpack will completely change the way you see the ancient world. Let's start in Peru, high in the Andes above the city of Cusco, at an elevation of roughly 3,700 meters above sea level. This is where Sacsayhuaman sits. And the first time most people see it in person, their reaction is almost always the same: silence. Because the scale of it doesn't register immediately. Your brain keeps trying to interpret it as something familiar, maybe a natural rock formation, maybe a modern construction site. But it's neither. Sacsayhuaman is a massive ceremonial and military complex built by the Inca civilization, featuring enormous zigzag limestone walls stretching over 300 meters in length. The individual stones in those walls are staggering. Some of them exceed 200 metric tons. The largest single block identified at the site weighs an estimated 360 metric tons, roughly the weight of 3 fully loaded Boeing 747s. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The nearest quarry for this type of limestone sits approximately 20 kilometers away from the site. That's 20 kilometers of steep Andean mountain terrain with no roads, no wheels, and no iron tools. You might be wondering, how is that even physically possible? Research published in peer-reviewed archaeology journals suggests the Inca likely used large teams of coordinated laborers, sophisticated rope systems made from llama fiber, log rollers, and precisely engineered ramps and levering systems. Experiments attempting to replicate these techniques using only the tools and materials available to the Inca have shown it's genuinely achievable, incredibly demanding, but achievable. And that matters. Because here's what most people completely miss when they look at Sacsayhuaman. The how of moving the stones is only half the mystery. The other half is what happened after those stones arrived at the site. Each block was individually shaped to fit its specific position in the wall. The angles are cut so precisely, the surfaces so perfectly flat, that adjacent stones form what engineers call dry stone ashlar masonry, fitting together under their own weight with no binding agent required. Not even a razor blade fits between them. And this wasn't just elegant craftsmanship. Research on Inca dry stone construction has revealed something remarkable. These walls were deliberately engineered to move. During an earthquake, the stones shift slightly, absorb the seismic energy, and then resettle into position. They don't crack, they don't crumble, they flex. Cusco sits in one of the most seismically active zones on Earth. Over the past 5 centuries, multiple major earthquakes have struck the region. And every time, the colonial Spanish buildings built on top of the ancient Inca foundations have cracked and collapsed, while the Inca walls beneath them remained untouched. That's not coincidence. That's engineering genius. And because of that engineering genius, the question becomes even more urgent when we look at the second site in this investigation. Because if Sacsayhuaman challenges our assumptions about what the Inca could accomplish, what's waiting for us in Bolivia will absolutely break them. About 800 kilometers southeast of Sacsayhuaman, on a high desert plateau near the southern shore of Lake Titicaca, sit the ruins of Pumapunku. The name translates from Aymara as Gate of the Puma. And I'll be honest with you, nothing I say here will fully prepare you for what the stonework at this site actually looks like. Pumapunku is part of the larger Tiwanaku archaeological complex, designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and is believed to have been constructed beginning around AD 536, according to radiocarbon dating conducted by archaeologist Aleksej Vranic from the oldest layers of the site's foundation. The Tiwanaku civilization that built it was, by any measure, extraordinarily sophisticated. At its peak, the city of Tiwanaku housed an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 residents. They developed advanced agricultural systems extending over more than 30 square miles of irrigated farmland. They produced intricate ceramics, fine metallurgy, and built civic infrastructure, including drainage systems and hydraulic channels. They were remarkable people. And yet, according to the archaeological record, they had no written language, no iron tools, and no wheeled vehicles for transport. Now look at what they built. The largest single stone on the site, a red sandstone slab on the eastern platform, known as the plateau Megalithic, is 7.8 meters long, 5.2 meters wide, and over a meter thick. It weighs an estimated 131 metric tons. Chemical and petrographic analysis of the sandstone confirms it was transported from a quarry near Lake Titicaca, roughly 10 kilometers away, uphill. The smaller andesite blocks used for the precision stonework came from quarries across Lake Titicaca on the Copacabana Peninsula, approximately 90 kilometers away. Let that land for a moment. 90 kilometers across a lake without wheels. But here's the issue. The transportation challenge, as extraordinary as it is, still isn't the most puzzling part of Pumapunku. The most puzzling part is what was done to the stone once it arrived. This is crazy. The andesite blocks at Pumapunku, and andesite is an extremely hard volcanic rock, were cut into precise interlocking H-shaped components. The joints between them are so flat and so flush that researchers have described them as achieving machine-level tolerances. Each block was designed to lock into the adjacent block, forming load-bearing joints without any mortar. The geometry involved required a sophisticated mastery of what we would today call descriptive geometry, the mathematical understanding of how three-dimensional shapes and angles relate to each other in space. And it wasn't just the large structural blocks. Some of the smaller and andesite pieces feature perfectly straight grooves with consistently spaced drill holes running along them, each hole identical in diameter, suggesting the use of standardized tooling or templates. Architectural historians Jean-Pierre Pratzen and Stella Nair, who conducted what is considered the first professional field study of the stonework at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, were direct about what they found. In their own words, the techniques used to achieve the perfectly planar faces and exact interior right angles on the finely dressed stones remain, and I'm paraphrasing here, essentially unknown. No tools excavated at the site have been definitively identified as the instruments behind these cuts. Pratzen and Nair also noted that the sharp 90-degree interior angles seen throughout the decorative stonework could not have been produced by the hammerstone pounding technique, the most common stone shaping method of the era. The rounded interior angles left by hammerstone work are completely different from what you see at Pumapunku. Something else made those cuts. We just don't know what. Now, some researchers propose an alternative theory that adds another layer of intrigue. Some suggest the precision might have been achieved through a system of abrasive grinding using flat stones and fine sand, combined with stone blades made from extremely hard materials like flint, obsidian, jasper, and quartzite. Nair herself experimented with this approach, attempting to replicate one of the smaller carvings. She eventually succeeded, but she was unable to fully replicate the perfectly flat interior surfaces of the carvings. And the process took roughly 25 to 40 hours for a piece about 20 centimeters across. Scale that up to the hundreds of precisely cut blocks across the entire site. The human commitment required is almost incomprehensible. Not only that, Pumapunku also features something you'd never expect from a civilization this early: eye-shaped metal cramps. These are precisely cast brackets made from a copper, arsenic, nickel-bronze alloy, designed to lock adjacent stone blocks together at specific connection points. Some of these cramps were cast directly in place, meaning the builders melted and poured the metal alloy directly into pre-cut sockets in the stone, on site at 3,850 meters of altitude. Here's what's fascinating about that. Scholars have identified this same eye cramp technique in two other ancient cultures, ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. The same engineering solution independently developed on 3 different continents. Researchers have called this a strikingly consistent choice of technical means, a reflection, they suggest, of parallel patterns in human problem-solving rather than any direct contact between the civilizations. But it raises the broader point at the heart of this entire investigation. When you look at Pumapunku alongside Sacsayhuaman, when you look at both sites as part of the same Andean tradition of stone mastery, you see something the mainstream narrative has consistently underestimated. These weren't primitive builders stumbling toward precision. These were technically sophisticated civilizations operating with extraordinary organizational capacity, advanced geometric knowledge, and engineering logic that modern researchers are still working to fully reconstruct. The Tiwanaku built Pumapunku with functional irrigation systems, hydraulic mechanisms, and drainage infrastructure integrated directly into the ceremonial complex. A 2016 drone survey of the site revealed it covers 17 hectares in total, and only 2 hectares have been excavated. Ground-penetrating radar surveys of the surrounding area have identified buried wall foundations, water conduits, terraces, and residential compounds that haven't even been touched yet. This means that what we currently know about Pumapunku is a fraction of what exists. And yet, even what we know already forces a reckoning with history. Because there's something almost poetic about these two sites. Sacsayhuaman shows us that ancient humans could move 200-ton stones across impossible terrain and fit them so precisely that they absorb earthquakes rather than crack under them. Pumapunku shows us that ancient humans could cut and shape the hardest volcanic stone into components of machine-like precision, using tools that haven't been found and techniques that remain only partially understood. Both sites are still standing. Both are still asking questions we can't fully answer. And both are a reminder that the capacity for extraordinary ingenuity isn't something history gave us recently. It's something we've carried for a very, very long time. Here's the bottom line. The real mystery of Sacsayhuaman and Pumapunku isn't about aliens. It never was. The real mystery is the one hiding in plain sight. The enormous, documented, evidence-backed gap between what we assumed ancient humans were capable of and what they actually built. These ancient megalithic structures are still standing, still defying earthquakes, still cutting stone with tolerances that challenge modern engineers. And we've only uncovered a fraction of what's there. If you've made it this far, you already know history is hiding something, not through conspiracy, but through the simple, persistent habit of underestimating the past. Drop your single biggest question about Pumapunku or Sacsayhuaman in the comments below. I read every one of them, and the best questions shape future investigations. And if this opens something up for you, share it. Someone in your life has been waiting to see this without knowing it. Subscribe to Arcanum. The truth was always buried.